What's up, everybody? Hinterland of Vegas here. We're gonna do something a little different today. I actually started reading a book recently. I'm actually listening to a book. Let me correct myself. It's an audio book from the book by David Goggins called "Can't Hurt Me." This was a book that was written by himself, and he had uh, a person help him out as well to write the book together. Um, where it discusses David's life and some of his philosophies on how to find your best self and to push past your limit. The interesting story about David Goggins, for those that don't know, he was a guy that was born, I believe, in Buffalo, New York, and he spent time in between Buffalo and Indiana growing up, and he had to basically carry himself from down in dumps to where he is successful today as a military veteran and also as a person that's a motivational speaker of sorts. So basically, just to kick it off, um, he was born into a middle to upper middle class environment at first. His father was a successful business owner in the Buffalo area, had a skating rink and other businesses, legal and illegal, going on at the same time. His mother was basically a housewife initially, helping out. A lot of turmoil in that marriage, a lot of abuse, a lot of cheating going on from the dad's side, at least, and a lot of like beatdowns that him and his brother had to endure, and just a whole lot of trauma and drama going on. Um, his dad was into some shady dealings with some people. Um, Long story short, they ended up, divorcing as the mother escaped, thankfully, out of that situation and transitioned herself and David because the brother decided to stay eventually with the father in New York to Indiana, in the Indianapolis area. Um, So basically, David, when he was in high school, he really didn't have like a real identity. So he decided to do the stereotypical, you know, thing where you rebel, and he had that phase, because it was like in the early '90s, if I'm not mistaken, the mid '90s. So he's really into like the hip hop thing, really into the basketball. That was his dream, and he was just rebelling, against whatever he felt like was restricting him, at that time period. He also was a quitter. He was somebody that was a cheater himself because he will often cheat on other people's tests in class and not really do the work himself. He was a slacker, wannabe thug, as he called himself. So eventually he saw that he couldn't really carry on the same way as, on the basketball court. It didn't work out for him until his senior year, basically, because he had some discipline issues and he had to get himself together about that. There's a guy that was in the Air Force that inspired him. He heard about his story. I think his name is Scott Guerin, if I'm not mistaken. Basically was I think it was a paratrooper that had a really bad accident from jumping from a plane, and he bumped into one dude and fell and basically broke his whole body almost. And they told this guy that he would never be able to, do anything else in the military because he was just too messed up. The cool thing about it was um, he actually overcame that odd, a lot of hard work, had a whole lot of physical therapy, and he was able to get back into the force. So David decided to write the guy and basically like go under his apprenticeship for like a month or so. And that planted a seed for him to understand what discipline was, how to overcome, and basically as he went through after high school, he joined the Air Force himself because he wanted to follow his um, his mentor. Uh, Initially, he wanted to get into the, I forget the name of it, but whatever top force it is in the Air Force, he wanted to get into that. He actually ended up failing to getting into that space because he was just not athletically conditioned enough for it, because it's not a lot of people that actually make it to those kind of ranks. And what actually happened was he actually got hurt, and they gave him an out. I think he had like some leg injuries, and he just took it because he just gave up. He felt sorry for himself. Eventually, got a job, basically as an exterminator for some time. Put on a bunch of weight working out, so he got husky, and put on some pounds because he was still lifting. But you can tell when you're not that cut up big, but you still, what I'm saying, on the thicker side. So he actually, because he's 6'2", 300 pounds at the time. So he's obviously overweight. And, if you just lifting, not doing a lot of running, you're just going to bulk up. And he was at that awkward, bulky stage. I'm just describing based off what he wrote in the book. And eventually he saw like an ad, I guess. No, it was a TV show for the Navy SEALs, and he said he was obsessed with it. He did research on what was required. 66% of the people that try to be Navy SEALs at that time don't even make it, and that's just how tough it is to cross there. It took him multiple times to actually get back into the force because one, he was overweight. He dropped 100 pounds in 3 months just to meet the weight requirement, just to get a chance to go to basic training, which was amazing, by the way. Just basically a lot of mental fortitude, and just he basically had that drive in him to do that. So he gets to the training, had to go multiple times, dealing with multiple injuries. I'm talking about running with broken legs, running with broken legs, just to make it. And the type of conditions that they had to go through was insane. Um, and now, let me break this off by saying that he has different themes going on through the book. One of them was taking souls, basically an object, person, or whatever circumstance that's in your way, and you're taking souls, taking that soul. You just, whatever reason you can motivate yourself with, even if it's small. Kind of like when Jordan had that documentary and he was like, and I took that personal. It's that same mindset of where you just go into this different mode of finding that motivation. And then he had another concept called the cookie jar, where you basically have to remind yourself why you that dude, why you that chick. You know what I'm saying? Why you that, what? Whatever you want to describe it as. Any small feat that you have, any big feat, middle feat, whatever victory that you had, just constantly remind yourself when you're, down in the dumps and you're doubting yourself, just to get over that hump. This is the same guy that, mind you, he became a Navy SEAL, and that wasn't enough because eventually the dude joined the army and he wanted to be one of the, I guess, the I think it's Dev Groove or whatever they call it. If I'm quoting it wrong, I apologize, but it's something kind of like the Green Rangers or something like that. But either way, he failed at that, and that's what I like. He talks about his failures as much as his feats. This guy has run ultra marathons, by the way, like 100 miles, 150, 250 mile ultra marathons. And he did this at the same time as a Navy SEAL. Do you know how hard that is? I didn't even know ultra marathons was a thing. Like running 100 miles within 24 hours. I don't even think I ran 100 miles in my life combined. The most I ever ran, I'll be real with y'all, the most I ever ran in my life at one time without stopping was 3 miles. I was 20 years old. That's crazy work. That, so some of the feats that he talks about, I ain't gonna lie, I felt like, damn, like I got a lot to work on. And I'm thankful because there are certain things that he went through that I could relate, at certain things with his life. Not everything, but it was just enough where I was like, man, if he could get through that situation and come out on top. The stuff that I've been complaining about, the because I'm going through some challenges that I'm overcoming myself health wise. So it's been motivating me to eat better, stay consistent, working out, watching my diet, and just finding different things to motivate myself and to elevate. Also, um, this guy has he had broke the pull up record at one point. It was like 4,430 or something like that, or 40, whatever. Like, dude, I don't think I did more than 40 pull ups my whole life. I've always been a big dude, so it was always harder for me to do pull ups. The most I ever did in one setting was like maybe three or four. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just amazing, man. And then he also says that it's 40% that we stop at and of our full potential. Like, we got to get past that 40%. And when you're running those ultra marathons and you're losing bodily fluids of all kinds that you can imagine, and still, and you're like halfway through of 100-mile race and you still going through it, you you twisting ankles, dehydration, just all that stuff just to get the job done. Now, all that is super dramatic. And he even says himself, don't be like him and be an idiot and try to run an ultra marathon without any training, because it will not work for you most likely, because he almost died several times doing some of that crazy stuff. But I still think that it's great motivation just to apply it to your life and find out, okay, where I'm at, what can I do to organize myself to get to that next level. And I'm still working on that, because I'm gonna be real with y'all, I suck at being organized. Like, go with the flow has been my main thing since I've been alive. You know what I'm saying? Like, my goal is to actually find my own structure, or let me rephrase that, find a structure where I can actually um, maintain and operate. Because the way he described it was basically like just organizing yourself basically helps you in so many different ways just to like matriculate to the next thing. And it's taking out excuses, it's taking out that victim mentality, because I have had different times in my life where I had the victim mentality. It's everybody's fault. It ain't me. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like that. It's just that in every situation, even if it's unfair, find out the weaknesses of that situation and own it. Even if it's not your fault or you feel like it's not your fault, and find out what you can do to improve from that situation where you can pass that test for the next go around. So, it, and then the cool thing about it, if you read the book, it's an amazing book. But if you listen to the audio, it's also a podcast type setup built within the reading of the book, because he goes over with his ghostwriter. And I'm sorry, I didn't get his name, but they basically have a discussion after each chapter, and they give you assignments, after each chapter, so you can mark, your progress or whatnot. It's definitely something I definitely recommend to get online. You can get it on the Audible. I'm not sure wherever else that you can get it, but I really think this is an awesome book. Cliche, 10 out of 10. Because, people say, oh, this was amazing. It's 10 out of 10. Really, it's 10 out of 10. Um, and it's an amazing book. I really feel like, whether you're more of a reader or a listener, you should go and get it. It's definitely worth it. It's definitely something I feel like you should have, where you can bring it with you, throughout whatever your journey is. So again, it's David Goggins. Oh, and you probably seen one of his clips. Dude, he's running on the island and he's cussing up a storm, and he said, "You better, like chuck those excuses and keep going." And it's hilarious. But the dude is really a motivational story that's disguised as like this account of this military hero and ultra marathon runner slash motivational speaker. It's really like his story is the tool for like a life lesson, basically, if that makes sense. If you listen to the audio forming the book with the podcast that's built within it, it'll make sense what I'm saying. But yeah, man, if you guys like read the book or what I'm saying, want to comment, feel free, to leave it and let your thoughts be known, and feel free to share and feel free to check it out. It's an awesome book. Yeah. Name is Hinterland of Vegas. It's my time. Y'all have a good one.